Hi everybody, how are you? It's Jay Victoria, the Energy Queen, and I'm really excited to do this video for you. I had this idea. Um, Sometimes I'll just honestly be walking along and things will click into place that I've been wondering about, or you could call them downloads that I channel. Um, it just feels like these pieces of knowledge or gaps in knowledge just formulate, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my god, that's what that is. And so I had a really cool one tonight I want to tell you about, which is that I've been thinking about the idea of money being evil, or money, and the things that the Bible says about money, and where a lot of people's money issues come from, and why it can feel like you feel bad about it, or like it's not good, and things like that. And I was walking around, the way I get these downloads is almost without even thinking about it. I just have the intention, like I almost just kind of pose the question energetically to God. It's like, why is that? And then I'll eventually get the answer. And I just thought it was so interesting what I learned. So I wanted to share this with you, that what money is, like when we talk about money, what money is like if somebody gives you money, what they're really giving you is influence. They're giving you, like if somebody hands you a bill of whatever amount, they're giving you the ability to go use that to change something in your life. You're able to acquire something, or you're able to get somebody to do something for you, or you're able to basically have influence over the world around you. And so when you're asking yourself the question, or if you have issues about money, which are really common, by the way, I've had them myself too, it's like, I want you to think about, if you look at it that way, do you have an issue with that? Like, do you actually have an issue with you having more influence in the world? And when you look at it that way, it starts to dissolve the fear around money and guilt around money, because it's like, well, all that really is you having more influence and power, you having more provided for you in your day, you being able to move around the world without fear. And I think what it comes down to, when we're talking about all the stuff with the Bible and all the things about money and the things that it says, I think what it comes down to is this, that what type of person are you? Because if you are the type of person who tries to do good in the world, and you try to live a good life, and you try to help others, then you having more influence just amplifies that. And I believe that the type of person you are without much money is the type of person you will still be when you get a lot of money. I don't think money changes who you are. I think who you are is based on the choices you make every single day. So I want you to ask yourself that question right now. What kind of person are you? What kind of person are you trying to be? What kind of person are you already currently being? Like, just take a look. So you having more influence, what is that really going to look like? And is that a good thing? And I think for many of us, it is. I know when I thought of it that way, I was like, I have no problem with myself having more influence in the world and being able to provide for myself or do things and with more freedom and ease, and not struggling to do things that I think are right and that will benefit me and ultimately benefit others, and being able to help others. Like, I really don't have an issue with that. You know what I mean? I don't have an issue with that, and I don't think you really will too when you look at it that way. So that's one thing I wanted you to think about. That's what money really is. That's what it really gives you. It itself doesn't mean anything. It doesn't do anything. The numbers in the account, they don't mean anything. They don't do anything unless you do something with it. So what kind of person are you? What kind of things are you going to be doing? Probably creating a lot of beauty and a lot of good things. So the other thing I want you to think about is how the Bible says, it doesn't say money is evil. It says specifically the love of money is evil. And if you look at your life and you think about times when maybe you've put money before God, or you've put money before things that really matter, it can cause a lot of evil and evil decisions and things to go wrong, and we have to learn lessons sometimes, you know, going through things like that. And it can be hard, especially when we're in survival mode, or we think that the money's really going to solve things for us, and we're not really like thinking about anything else. We just think that that's the solution. But I think that you can have that approach to money whether or not you have a lot or you don't. So it doesn't, you know what I mean? And so what the Bible specifically says is that the love of money is the problem. And why is that? I'm going to get a little bit deep here to explain this. So money isn't inherently bad, because again, it gives you influence, it gives you power, which is not inherently bad. You can make choices, but I just believe that a lot of people watching this have good intentions. So it isn't inherently bad, but if you worship it for its own sake, what you're really worshiping is your own power and your own influence instead of God who created you. So it's like making yourself your own God. Making money and having love for money and having that your motivation is actually the same thing as you yourself being your own God and forgetting about the actual God and the fact that you're only here because of God and God's love for you. And what God is, and God says many times in the Bible, I am. God is presence. God is existence. And I work with energy. I see energy. And what I see is that positive energy is real and negative energy is not real. Positive energy exists. It's the I am. It's God, basically. Negative energy is like the void. It doesn't itself exist. It's an absence of what does exist, which is the light. So negativity is not itself anything. And the I amness of life, of God, is what does exist. And that's why abundance is not bad. Abundance is another word for money. It's not bad because it's just acknowledging, like if you do gratitude, a powerful thing to do to create more wealth is to create lists of things that you're grateful for. You might know this already. But one reason is because gratitude is the acknowledgement of what is. Gratitude is the acknowledgement of what is, right? Which is the acknowledgement of God. The same thing. So gratitude, the acknowledgement of what is the acknowledgement of God, and that's having love for God instead of love for money. You see? So when you have love for money, you have love for something that doesn't inherently exist. Like I said, it doesn't inherently have value. We used to trade different things back in the day. We used to trade animals, or, you know, I always thought maybe the word buck for the dollar came from like the buck, like the antlers of a deer. It's like what we choose has meaning and value, and even the piece of paper that has of the bill or the coin, we just all agree that that has a certain value, but in itself it doesn't have any kind of value more than any other type of paper. One of my favorite stories about this is that I was once house sitting for somebody. They were quite wealthy, but I just opened a drawer, and they traveled a lot. I opened a drawer, I was looking for something, and absentmindedly in the drawer I just saw a bunch of what I thought was pretty paper. And that's all I thought. I thought, oh, that paper's pretty. And then I shut the drawer and I kept looking around, and I was like, wait a second. And I went back and looked, and I was looking at a foreign currency, but it was like a lot of money in this other currency. And I didn't recognize it because to me it was just pretty paper. And that's all money really is. The moment when I thought it was pretty paper, I wasn't thinking like, I wasn't attaching any kind of thing to it, or I literally just like, oh, that's nice, and then moved on. If someone actually handed me pretty paper, I would have that attitude about it, you know? But that's how much money in itself doesn't have value. We just assign it value. So when you're thinking about like the fact that that in itself isn't anything really, you know? Money in itself, why the Bible says don't make money your God, is don't move out of love for money, is because it's not real, you know? Inherently, it doesn't exist, really. It's just an idea that we all agree upon. So what it's saying is don't serve something that is not real. What is real is God. And so God does that not to tell us you having money is bad. That's not what he's saying. He's saying, love me because I am. Love me because I created everything. Anything that you love is really me that you love because I am the creator. Just have your priorities straight. See what's really happening here. And I like the idea of abundance because I think that no matter how much money you have, that number in itself will never solve a lot of problems for you. It won't make you a happy person. The idea of abundance is about acknowledging the isness or the existence of good, which is, again, the acknowledgement of the existence of God. So that can come in many forms. It can come in money. It can come in things that happen in your life, right? That money can't even buy. It can come in, even having health or having a family or having certain things that just mean something to you. The acknowledgement of isness, the acknowledgement of I am, of existence is smart. And that's what God is trying to actually lead you toward. But that doesn't mean, you guys, that you're not allowed to have money. Money's part of that picture. Money's part of abundance. Money's part of your influence and your ability and your power. And I believe that when you look at it through this lens, you can see that you being a rich person is not bad. And by the way, I know a lot of people have an issue with even thinking of themselves as a rich person because the Bible also says something like it would be easier for a rich man to go through the eye of a needle than to get into the kingdom of heaven. I want to speak on this too, though, because I was thinking about that as well. And what I felt was that rich people in the time when the Bible was written were very different from the rich people of today. Not all of them are different, but a lot of them are different today because I'm not saying the word of the Bible isn't perfect. I'm just saying there's context to this because in the time when the Bible was written, there was a lot of division in class. There was a lot of not acknowledging the value of somebody beyond how much money they had, or seeing whole groups of people as like impoverished and therefore irrelevant. And if you actually were a rich person today, like, I want you to seriously ask yourself the question, would you treat people with less money than you as less than you? And the way that you would know if you would do that is how you treat them right now. Because again, money's not going to change who you are on the inside. So who are you right now? How do you look at people who have less than you, and how do you treat them, or how do you think about them? Do you see their inherent value? I live here in New York. I see a lot of those people, and I always am. It makes me a little emotional because there's a lot of people, who need a lot of help, and I try to help where I can, but sometimes I can only pray for them, even if it's just a moment. But I've also been through situations in my life where I've felt like that person. I was even briefly without a place to live in New York. So the judgment really was stripped from me in a big way. And so who are you now? Who are you now? And if you added money to that, it's really not going to change who you are on the inside. And if you're looking at people now in the way that you look at people less than you, because there will always seems to be someone who is less than you, even if you feel like you have nothing, really look at that. Like, how do you think about them? How do you treat them? Do you pray for them? Do you do what you can if you feel inspired to help somebody? Like, what kind of person are you right now? Because that's the kind of person you still will be. If somebody gave you $1 million, you would still be that person, So think about where your life has brought you and the kind of person that you are today, and know that you're not going to all of a sudden turn into an evil person just because someone gave you more money. I just don't believe that would happen. And I think that the whole idea of rich people not being able to get into heaven is, what that was really saying is people who treat other people like shit probably have a hard time getting into heaven. And back in the time when the Bible was written, a lot of the wealthy people were wealthy because they withheld money, or they thought they were better than other people, or they didn't give it away to help people. You know, there was a lot of classism and a lot of problems and a lot of not living the message of Jesus, you know. But I believe, especially for women right now, I'm feeling so fired up to help women, especially, all people, but women especially, to understand that there's no guilt in you having more money. It's not going to change you. It's not going to make you evil. It's not going to not get you into heaven. All it is going to do, like, those things are determined by who you are. You know, those things are really determined by your choices, which you have control over. But if I were to give you a bunch of money right now, it wouldn't transform you into an evil doer, because the only thing that decides what you do is you. And to see who you would be as a rich person, look at who you already have become. And if you're good with who you've become, I want you to imagine amplifying your influence. And think about that beautiful picture. And don't think about money, think about abundance. Because when you are connected to and in pursuit of the idea of abundance, you are connected to and in pursuit of a connection, a deeper connection with what is, which is God. So I hope that this helped you. I was really excited to download these ideas. I hope they're healing for you to hear. And if you would like to take it a step further, I actually have a free meditation to help reprogram your mind, your mental state, toward this direction of believing in abundance, accepting that abundance for you is good, and accepting really the blessings that God always is trying to gift you with. So if you are interested, let me know. You can contact me. My email is below, or you can also comment abundance meditation, and I will get in touch with you. And it's free, so you can take advantage of that. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Have a good night.